We are learning Likkutei Sichot, Volume 2, Parshas Shoftim, and we're somewhere in Section 3, I think. Maybe Section 4. We started... No, we didn't. We didn't. We started Section 3. We maybe finished.
Finished it.
No, we didn't. We didn't finish 3. Okay. So what I was going to tell you is about this point that you can't do tshuva unless you're willing to say to Hashem, I need you to do tshuva. So interestingly, by Shgacha, yesterday I was going past the couch in the house. We have a couch. There was a book open on it.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Where is it open? What book is it? So it was a book from Reb Steinsaltz, one of his old books. It was open to tshuva and Chodesh Elul. And he said that, he writes there that if a person feels that he's complete, he can't do tshuva. He said, if you're not connected to the fact that if you're not in touch with the feeling that you are broken, lacking in some way, you can't do tshuva. Well, how could you do tshuva? Tshuva is not the way that people think. It's not just about a specific act. It's also a specific state of mind.
Right.
The state of mind is that I need you, Hashem.
An attitude.
Okay. So, which by the way is something needs to be discussed in relation to other streams of thought. But getting back to the point, so he wrote there that there is a particular group of people in the Jewish people that feel that they have everything. Sometimes it's even not personally. Sometimes, this is how I was before I became a chassid. I felt that the group that I belonged to was the creme de la creme. And because of that, it's very strange, I couldn't see my own failings. Because I felt such pride in the group, I couldn't see my own problems at all. There was no sense of lack. Now it's very interesting. What Rav Steinsaltz wrote there is that you can't do tshuva without feeling lack. I said a little bit differently that you can't do tshuva unless you turn to Hashem, because that's basically what tshuva means. It means turning to Hashem. So what are you turning to Hashem for? So there might be different reasons why you're turning to Hashem, and you might not necessarily feel the lack because of your actions. The part that's missing might be simply because you have a feeling that you cannot on your own complete what needs to be completed, and so you're always turning to Hashem. I always felt with that group that I was in that we were doing everything by ourselves. Hashem was not in the picture at all. It's a very interesting thing.
You weren't talking to him.
What? So we weren't talking. There's no dialogue. I once said that in the end, the reason we don't know our mission in life is because otherwise there wouldn't be dialogue. If I knew exactly what I needed to do, I wouldn't talk to Hashem. I would talk at specific instances in time when I knew, now I can't do it by myself. Let's say I knew. But the reason a person doesn't know what his mission is because part of finding out what the mission is having a dialogue, continuous dialogue. Anyway. Let's go back to Section 3 here. שכן בכל דרגה ישנו עניין היעדר והפך העבודה בהתאם למהותה. Exactly says this. At every level that a person might be, there's still the inyan, the issue of a lack, of something missing. And not only that, but the opposite of what his work is. הפך העבודה. That he's doing something that's detrimental to his work. כלומר, שלפי ערך מעלה דרגה זו, הרי זה עניין של היעדר העבודה, עד כדי כך שלגבי דרגת ובו תדבקון, הרי העבודה של אותו תעבוד ומהווה עניין שיש לחזור עליו בתשובה. So, even if a person is at the highest level, he cannot reach the state of bo tidbakun, which means you shall cling to God, unless he first of all serves God. And the service here is lacking all the time. There's something missing. So he knows constantly that he has to move forward. So why is the Rebbe saying this? He's saying this because in the future, when the Mashiach comes, the same thing will be, because it will have to expand the number, he'll have to add, he'll have to augment the number of cities of refuge. So it says the Rebbe, even at that level, there will still be such a thing as manslaughter. Even at that level, there will still be mistakes. There will still be things that people do without intending to do them. What does that mean? That there's always tshuva. Section 4. This, at the same way we should do the accounting of the month of Elul, which we said its essence is running to a city of refuge in Elul. And every person has this need to run to a city of refuge and to do tshuva in this way based on his, or in congruence with his level. על האדם לערוך חשבון נפש של כל מחשבותיו, דיבורו ומעשיו במשך כל השנה, אם היו לפי השולחן ערוך, אם היו לפנים משורת הדין, ואם היו לפום גמלה. וכשלא היו כן, עליו לחזור בתשובה. So he says here 3 levels of חשבון נפש, of taking and accounting. The first level is that I do everything according to Shulchan Aruch. That's the basic requirement. The second level is that I go beyond the letter of the law. That's called lifnim meshurat adin. Did I judge people favorably even when I didn't need to? Did I give tzedakah even when I didn't need to? Did I add onto Shabbos even more than I needed to? How did I act beyond the Shulchan Aruch, beyond the regular or the basic requirements of the law? But then he has a third level, lefum gam lashichna, that for the camel to walk properly, you have to load him based on what he can carry. I mean, you can't say a camel can only carry 100 kilograms, let's say. There's big camels. If you put 100 kilograms on them, they don't walk properly. They're not motivated. They don't move. It's nothing for them. It's like they don't feel that they're going anywhere. So there's a famous story from the Baal Shem Tov that the Friediger Rebbe told. The Friediger Rebbe told that the Baal Shem Tov had a disciple by the name of Rabbi Kehat. Kehat, he was famous, one of his disciples. And he would go around, he would wander around a lot, and he would especially like going to the simple people and to the marketplaces. So one time he heard one horse merchant telling someone else, 2 Jews, but very, very simple people. He said to him, don't be, like it says in Tehillim Lamed Beis, Al tiyu kasus kapered, Al tiyu kasus kapered bemeteg, something like that. Don't be like a horse or a mule, that when they put a bit in its mouth, what does the horse or the mule think? They think that they want me to chew on this, but they gave me something out of metal so that I don't forget how to chew so it's for me, it's for my benefit. Why do you really put the bridle in the bit and the bridle on the horse? So you can maneuver him, so you can tell him where to go. But he doesn't think that. He doesn't understand that. He thinks that they did it for my benefit. A person is in the world and he thinks, why do I have such wonderful food? Because I should enjoy it. There's a phrase in Yiddish, I don't remember how they say it in Yiddish, but shalom aleich bitni, like good for my stomach. I feel good in my stomach, that's why I have this food. Hashem says, why did I give you this food? So you could do work, you could do something. So the camel has the same thing. When you put a big load on it, when you put a regular load on it, he says it's because I need to feel something, because otherwise, that's why he's built the way he's built. He's built for carrying. He says, if I don't have something on my back, it's like I don't feel right. Okay, so they put something on my back so that I can feel right. But he doesn't know that he's supposed to carry anything, or to put the right load on him, which could be a lot more than the little camel. So that's called the fum gam lashichna, that they load you up in life with what you can carry, which can be a lot more than just lifnim meshurat adin. It could be tons more. Okay? So a person has to do a cheshbon on 3 levels: Shulchan Aruch, beyond the letter of the law, and based on what he can carry, which could be a lot more than these 2 things. וכשלא היו כן עליו לחזור בתשובה. And on all three things, on all three accounts, he should do tshuva. Did I do according to Shulchan Aruch? Did I do beyond the letter of the law? And did I do according to what I can carry, which most people don't know is a separate category. And you should. The Rebbe Shanzlos used to describe it as the Rebbe wanted people to become like dense stars. So he added more and more and more and more based on what they could carry, until you become so dense that you take a spoonful and it weighs like the whole sun. But that was the idea that the Rebbe kept. אוקיי, מכאן מובן שלא בעלי עסקים בלבד, כי אם גם יושבי אוהל נמצאים כל שנה באוהלה של תורה ובאוהלה של תפילה, גם לגביהם צריך בחודש אלול להיות עיר מקלט, את בצר במדבר, בתורה שעליה נאמר, ובמדבר מתנה וכן בתפילה. So he says, from this we learn that it's not just the people who go out to work, who earn their livelihood, that need to run to a city of sanctuary during Elul to do this cheshbon. It's even people who all year long are engaged in Torah. Why? Because they too have a level that they haven't reached yet. Maybe their lefum gamla, their weight that they can carry is a lot more than what they're doing. So they have to do the cheshbon there. They have to take an accounting there also. And he adds a nice allusion to this. He says, it's Betzel Bamidbar. One of the cities of refuge was called Betzel, and it was in the wilderness. He says, what does the wilderness tell us? The wilderness can be the Torah, because it says about the Torah, midbar matana. And from the wilderness of Sinai, we received the gift. Well, the gift was the Torah. So it says, Betzel Bamidbar, the city of refuge in the wilderness, alludes to people who are in the midbar, they're in the wilderness, they're in the Torah. Okay? In a certain sense, when a person decides to dedicate his life to learning Torah, in a certain sense he's in the wilderness. Why is he in the wilderness? Because he's not contributing to the livelihood of the world. He's doing something else. So, but we need people like that. We need people that are a little higher than the ground. So they too have to do a cheshbon when it comes and run to a city of refuge with regard to their Torah and with regard to their davening. הדברים אמורים גם בקשר למה שדובר לפני שנתיים בחיי אלול בדבר המנהג השורר במדינה זו לשחרר הביתה תלמידי הישיבות במשך חודשי אלול תשרי, דבר שהוא בניגוד לתורה ובניגוד לשכל אנושי. So here it comes down on this thing that used to be, this terrible thing, that all the yeshivas would be off for all of Elul and Tishrei. Well, not all of Elul, but part of it. Like my son, from the 25th of Tishrei, they're off. Why are they off? What happened? Because they have to go to 770, so they're traveling. Okay, it makes a little bit of sense. But he used to be... He is. He's a Migdal Emek now. So, since a week ago. Yeah. So, what did he used to be like? It used to be that there was no Zman in Elul. They used to get off on Tisha B'Av. They didn't used to get off on Tisha B'Av. They got off in the beginning of Elul to go home for the holidays. And back in Europe, it took like 2 weeks sometimes to get to your home. So from the middle of Elul, there was nothing, the yeshivas were closed.
Serious?
Yeah. They changed it now because it doesn't take so long to travel. And they made a few changes. One of the changes was that until Yom Kippur, they stay in the yeshiva. And that way they have Elul Zman. The Elul Zman is a new thing. Elul Zman did not exist 80 years ago, 50 years ago. There was no such thing. There was no Elul Zman. So the Rebbe here is talking against this. It's not a good practice. It's against logic also. The most important time of the year, when you're supposed to be in a city of refuge learning Torah, you send the yeshiva boys home. So what's that? במקום לקיים את הנאמר שבחודש אלול ממעטים בגופי ההלכות וחיבורים ועוסקים יותר בתשובה נוסעים עוד הביתה. So instead of lessening the amount of learning halacha in order to do tshuva, in order to spend time fixing the way, you have to fix something. What are you doing in Udas Elul? What's your new habit?
Me?
Yeah. No, but what's your new habit? Something you haven't done until now. You learn halachos all the time.
No.
It's an addition. I see. So you added something. So I added, one of the things I added this Elul was that I can't go to sleep without calling my mother. I usually call her sometime during the day, but a lot of days I forget. So I decided that this hello, I'm changing that.
My uncle, may he be well and blessed, is 96. When he took over the family business and his parents went to live in London from Wales, every single day at 1 o'clock he would phone his mother, and at 5 o'clock he would phone his mother. Every single set of words.
So I'm not at that level yet, but
Only for a second. How are you? Everything all right?
yeah.
But
No, it's like a 2-minute, 3-minute conversation. What's new? What'd you do? What'd you eat? Etc. Like you said, I care. That's what it means. So you have to do something. So you even take off time from learning Torah to do those things. Why? Because they're important for Elul. Because you're changing yourself. You're becoming a different person. I told you this thing that you don't need 40 days to. Okay, you don't need 40 days to ask for forgiveness. You need 40 days to change. בתקופת חודש אלול על התלמיד לשהות בישיבה וצריך להיות מוחלט בנפשו יעבור עליי מה בשבועות הספורים שבחודש של בקשו פניי עליי להיות כדבעי. As he says, for 40 days a person can act properly. So everybody who's in yeshiva and every person can say, for these 40 days I'm going to act differently. I'm going to be the way I should be. After that, it might be that from 40 days of acting the right way, you'll continue when the new year begins. By the way, there's a whole discussion, we're not going to get into it. Shabbos Bereshis is really the beginning of the year, not Rosh Hashanah. There's 2 beginnings of the year. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah, how you see yourself.
Okay, said it. Is how you stand in the Shabbos Bereshis is how you stand the rest of the year. But there's a whole discussion in Halacha about when, and Nigle, Mamish, when does the year begin? Does it begin on Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Elul? Does it begin on Shabbos Bereshis, which is usually the last Shabbos of Tishrei? Aleph Tishrei. Section 5. זו גם הוראה לבעלי עסקים. גם זה שבמשך כל השנה הוא שקוע בעיסוקיו וכתיבת חודש אלול, לפחות מאז חי אלול היום, בו מתחיל החשבון של יום לחודש, או בכל אופן בימי הסליחות, עליו לברוח לערי מקלט, שהיו גם בעבר הירדן שמחוץ לארץ ישראל, למקום יראת שמיים, לישיבה והדומה, שם תהא דירתו. So this is also an instruction, he says, to people who work for their livelihood, when they have business. They, even though the rest of the year they're drowning, let's say, in their business, during the month of Elul, or at least from Chai Elul, the birthday of the Baal Shem Tov and the Alter Rebbe, as we know that on that day there's 12 days till the end of the year, and those 12 days are every month is like encapsulated. Every past month of the year is encapsulated in one day. You can fix everything that was in that month by fixing that day from the 18th of Elul and on. Or at least, he says, during the days of Sichot, and this year we have 7 days of Sichot, you too have to run to a city of refuge that were also outside the land of Israel, like he says. So they also exist. No, so they weren't outside. That's how we started the Sicha. He says they were in the area to the east of the Jordan. In any case, you have to run to a city of refuge, to a place of Yiras Shamayim, a place of fear of heaven, sensitivity, to a yeshiva, and something similar. That's where you need to live during that time. דרוש ונס שמה, ניסה בריחה מכל עניינים בהם הוא שרוי בכל השנה אל ערי המקלט להשתקע שם. שם תהא דירתו לפי סגנון הזוהר קבורתי דילי דמוישה, משנה. הרי שם תהא קבורתו. This is what I want to get to. The person has to run there. What it means to flee there is like in the same way that a person flees to the city of refuge. It has to be in such a way that you now live there. When you flee to a city of refuge, you don't come out. So you're supposed to completely take your Rebbe with you. Also, what does he say? He says it's to to strike roots there. That is where his place of dwelling will be. And as the Zohar says about Moshe Rabbeinu, when he was passing from this world, where did God put him? So he did it on Har Nevo. And Nevo, it says, it means Nunbo. There were 50 are there. What are the 50? 50 gates of understanding. That he reached the highest level. Another explanation given by Zohar is that he took the Nun from Nevo and he added it to Moshe's name. Nun Bo means he took the Nun and put it in Moshe. And when you put a nun inside Moshe, you get Mishnah. So there's an understanding that Moshe's passing was the beginning of the oral tradition, of the oral Torah, the beginning of the Mishnah. But the Zohar doesn't leave it at that. It says Likkutei dilei. It says he was buried in the Mishnah. And this is an amazing concept when you think about it. We're only beginning to think this way. What does the Zohar say? The Zohar is saying that Moshe's soul was, amongst other things, transformed into the letters of the Mishnah. When you're learning Mishnah, you're learning Moshe's soul. Think about what it's saying. What is it saying? He became digital. That's the way we would say it today. You took the person's consciousness and you uploaded it to the cloud. Because what is the Mishnah? The Mishnah is letters, it's words. Moshe became the Mishnah. The Zohar here is saying something that no one could have imagined 2,000 years ago. There's no way, you know what, even 1,000 years ago, even 500, even 200 years ago, nobody thought about this. Nobody could think this way. You can take a person's consciousness, and not just his consciousness, here it's his soul, it's his devotion to Torah, it's his devotion to learning Torah. And you create it, and you transform it into a digital version of itself. And the digital version is the words. And then every time that a person is learning Torah, Mishnah, he's learning Moshe's soul. He and Moshe are now one.
What?
That's what it means. That's what the Zohar is saying. Likkutei dilei Mishnah. His place of burial is in the Mishnah. He's buried in the Mishnah. He was uploaded into the cloud. He became the Mishnah. This is where his burial is. משמעות קבורתו היא, לפי הנאמר, בן 100 כאילו מת ועבר ובטל מן העולם. What does it mean that he was buried? So another explanation here is that when a person, the Mishnah says in Avos, that when a person reaches 100 years old, it's as if he's dead and gone from the world. When a person reaches 100 years old, כשהשלים את כל ענייניו בכל פרטי כוחות נפשו, when he's consummated all the powers of his soul, that's why 100, because 100 is 10 times 10. It's the inter-inclusion of all the 10 powers of the soul in one another. So it's 10 squared. הרי עבר ובטל מן העולם, אין לו כל מגע עם העלם העולם. He is now gone from the world, which literally means, not just figuratively, that he has no connection with the world, meaning with how God is concealed from us. He has no connection to that concealment anymore. ולכן יכול הוא להאריך ימים ושנים שכן אין לו ממה לחוש. And therefore he can live long and forever because there's nothing more to fear. Because he sees God everywhere. That's what it means to reach 100 years old. That's what it means that Moshe Rabbeinu was buried. He passed the age of 100, he became 120. And now he lives forever. Why? Because he's no longer in the state of concealment that he was before. He reaches a state of mind where he sees godliness everywhere. זה פירוש קבורתו, פירוד 4 יסודות שכל אחד מגיע מתחבר לשורשו, עפר אתה ולעפר תשוב. כוח ההתבטלות של ארץ, שממנו נובע בניין המלכות שבראש השנה. This is what it means by his burial. It's the falling apart of the 4 elements out of which a person is made, right? Earth, and water, and air, and fire. This is from the Rambam. And each one goes back to its root. Because that's what it means when it says, Afar ata v'lafar tashuv. It says, God said to Adam, you are dust and you will return to dust. So when we say you are dust and you return to dust, what about the water? What about the air? What about the fire in the person? So it says, all 4 of them, each one returns to its source. The source is where the original primordial element is. But all that is very philosophical. What does it literally mean? It means that you receive the power of nullification that is in the primordial elements. Because the primordial elements, they combine with each other without any problems. The difficulty is combining things that are already mixtures of these elements. But the primordial elements, if you that's why the alchemists, they were looking for the philosopher's stone, which was basically saying, I want one of the primordial elements in its purity, in its pristine state. and then I can turn lead into gold. Then once you have one of them, you can change everything, because they combine and recombine in the easiest way. We, by the way, are looking for exactly the same thing. We also try to go down to, that's what fusion is about now. The whole craze for fusion now. Billions are being poured into it every month now, because they feel that it's close already. And fusion does exactly that. It takes primordial elements, except we don't call them earth and water, and we have different names for them. We call them protons, we call them neutrons, and even they're not. In any case, we want to bring them together. And when you bring them together and you control the joining, the fusion, then you get almost an infinite amount of energy, with tremendous amounts of energy for free, basically. You don't need that much energy to create this fusion. The sun does it all the time, but the sun does it using gravity. And gravity has a way of doing this. Anyway, so when you can reach the state of everything is broken apart and gone back to the primordial state, then you can combine with everything. It means you don't see anymore the concealment that the world is concealing God. You don't see that anymore. What do you see? You see godliness in everything. And that is where the beginning of building the sovereignty of Hashem and Rosh Hashanah comes from. עבודה של חשבון נפש בחודש אלול, ונס שמה היא הכנה לכתיבה וחתימה טובה לראש השנה לשנה טובה ומתוקה בעני חיים ומזון הרוויחי. So this work of taking an account this way and running to a city of refuge is the preparation needed for receiving a ksiva v'chasima toiva on Rosh Hashanah. Should be a sweet and good and sweet year in all three areas of family, prosperity, family, health, and prosperity. I got it right now. Amen. And I'll see you on Sunday, God willing.